Good morning, everybody. Happy Wednesday. Hope you guys are doing good. And let's talk a little bit. Let's talk about a few Seahawks that need to be talked about at this point because we are approaching a little bit of a crossroads. We are getting there in a branch in the path. Maybe we're not going to be there until much later this year. Maybe we're not going to be there until the end of the year, but I believe we are headed towards a branch in the road, one way or the other, with three Seahawks. And this year for the Seahawks, for the most part, is a pretty chill year, right? Like, we can just watch these young players go out there, show us what they got. If they got something, then great. If they don't, then we can move on. And it's going to cost us some games this year, but hey, that's okay. I can live with that. This year is not supposed to be an amazing year anyway. This is a year to build to the next great Seahawks team. So guys like Kobe Bryant, Tariq Woolen, Charles Cross, Abraham Lucas, Kenneth Walker, excuse me, Boye Mafe. It's cool. It's cool. It's a process. Mistakes are fine. Just learn from them. If this season goes bad, okay. Every team has to go through a bad season at some point. Bill Belichick, the greatest head coach of all time, had a great, amazing run at the top of the NFL. Even he had to have the one bad year before he got back to a point where his team was competitive. But that doesn't mean every single aspect of this team is completely immune from criticism. So we need to talk about a few things that are going in a bad direction, and I don't think we can just completely blow it off to they're learning, or oh they're just getting their feet wet. They're just, you got to give them a chance. Like, we're kind of giving them the chance and they're not doing enough with it. So these three players, for somewhat different reasons, are ultimately kind of in the same boat for me right now. It's either time to start worrying a little bit, or we are on the verge of the time where it start to worry a little bit. Um, and this is not a panic button video at all. This is not me saying we need to get these guys out of here. This is not me saying that, oh, this is a disaster. This rebuild isn't going to work now. But there are three guys that need to start doing things a little bit differently and be a little more productive, or else they may not be able to be part of the next great Seahawks team, and that does set you back. Let's start with Dwayne Eskridge, or D. Eskridge as he's called. I think this is probably the most obvious one because he's not even playing right now. I already did my snap count Monday a couple days ago, but if you go look that up, the dude has played, I believe, 11 snaps through 2 games. 11 snaps. He may as well be Penny Hart. Penny Hart would play about that many snaps during many games last year. He's a complete afterthought. And beyond that, when he is in there, half the time he's not even running routes. He's just getting a bubble screen, or he's just basically standing at the line of scrimmage waiting for a pass. I think both passes he's caught so far this year have been basically the same bubble screen, so he's not even really running routes. I know he's run routes on a few plays. Like, there was that one play where we had 10 players on offense where he was running a route. I believe the first sack that Bradley Chubb got on Geno in the Denver game, he was running a deep route down the field, but he's really just not involved at all. And here's the thing. Here's the troubling thing, okay? Because Dwayne Eskridge is a second-year player who basically had his rookie year aborted. We know that, right? Like, that first year, if you go down and look at it, he played in 10 games. He was targeted 20 times, had all of 10 catches, 1 touchdown. It was a stunted year for Eskridge's growth. There's no doubt about it. If you go down to the number of snaps he played, it was less than 200. Less than 200 snaps for a receiver. But here's the thing. If he can't even get on the field right now, to where literally he is a complete afterthought, to where he could be pretty much any receiver in the league and it wouldn't make a difference, then how is he going to develop? if you can't even get him out there for like 20 snaps a game? Get him the ball 2 or 3 times a game. Literally, the 2 touches he has so far this year are completely meaningless. One was for no gain, and the other was on the final play of a 20-point blowout. So, Pete, in his press conference, when talking about Eskridge a little bit, basically said he felt like this was Eskridge's rookie year because last year he didn't get to do very much. And there was also some indication that he's regressing. There was some indication that he basically didn't learn much of anything in his rookie year, and that this year he was struggling with the playbook. It was almost as if Pete was implying he kind of got brainwashed from last year in a way. Like he didn't have that rookie year in effect, and now this is his rookie year. And here's the big problem with Eskridge. He's already 25 and a half. During this upcoming offseason, he's going to turn 26. This is not some 21-year-old where it's understandable that he would take a long time to start fitting in the NFL. This is a guy who is already approaching his NFL physical prime. This is not a guy who makes sense to just be sitting on the sideline waiting for year 3 or year 4, and that's the year he's going to do it. No, you drafted this guy because he was supposed to be pretty much ready to go. When you drafted him, you knew he was going to start his NFL career when he was, when you drafted him, he was already 24. And now here we are. It feels like Groundhog's Day with Eskridge. We're getting indications that he can't run routes, that he doesn't really understand the playbook. And because of that, we don't feel comfortable using him. And when we do use him, often it's just on these bubble screens. And the fact that we are 2 games into the season and we haven't seen a single fly sweep with him, that's bizarre. That doesn't make any sense at all because that's an important part of this offense. So I gotta say, I'm not hitting the panic button on a lot of players on this team, and I'm not going to do it with Eskridge yet, but it's time to start wondering, is it ever going to happen? This is not a young player anymore. I know he's a second-year player, and I know his rookie year did not go well, but this guy is going to turn 26 this upcoming offseason. DK Metcalf, think about what he's done, and he's, I believe, younger than Dwayne Eskridge. DK Metcalf made an all-pro team. DK Metcalf had a franchise record-setting season a couple years ago, and he's younger than Dwayne Eskridge, and he was certainly much younger than him the year he actually had that record-breaking season. So, I don't know. The fact that Carroll specifically called out Eskridge as basically hitting the reset button on his career this year, and this being, it's kind of like he's a rookie again. I believe that's how Pete put it, where he's just not totally picking up on the offense and therefore can't be a significant part of it. It really sounds bad to me. So we'll see where this goes, but right now I have to say, as somebody who didn't mind the Eskridge pick at the time, I'm not feeling great about this one. The second player is Darryl Taylor, and this might be the most surprising one to me. Because for those of you who weren't around in the offseason, Darryl Taylor was a guy who I thought was going to burst onto the scene this year and have an awesome season. Everything I heard in training camp and practice sounded great, like we were getting a slightly poorer man's version of Von Miller. So far, not even close. I don't need to post the stats. You guys know them. He's got 3 tackles through 2 games. He is making some plays in the backfield. He is getting some pressure, but the man cannot tackle to save his life. He missed a couple tackles against the Broncos. He missed several tackles against the 49ers. A couple of them have made low-light reels, basically. They're circulating on Twitter because they're just so unacceptable. The guy can't tackle. The guy has more missed tackles this year than actual tackles. Think about that for a second. PFF is not being kind to him at all right now. As you can see, his player grade is all the way down to 30.5, which basically indicates that this is a guy who, based off his play so far, does not belong in the league. And while most of this stems from the fact that he's not defending the run well, admittedly, most of this stems from the fact that he's not playing the run, I'm not seeing that much in the pass rush either. Couple reasons why that might be. Might be because he's getting held, might be because the other parts of the defense aren't pulling their weight, like the defensive line is not really absorbing blockers the way you would like. But that's not making Darryl Taylor miss tackles. That's not making him completely fail to fill his responsibilities on run plays. That's on Darryl Taylor. So I gotta say that this year, which is technically his second year, but it's his third year on the team, I was expecting a step up. We are getting a step back. And it's fair to point out, last year, Taylor got off to a pretty strong start for the Seahawks. Like the first 8 to 10 games, he was nice. And then as the year went on, he stopped bringing down quarterbacks quite as much. If you look at his splits from the first part of the year to the second part of the year, not as good. So it's time to wonder a little bit about Darryl Taylor. Maybe he's just a pure pass rusher, somebody who you need to put in the game on third down and passing downs only, and needs to sit on the sideline for running plays. That's possible. But honestly, it's not like he doesn't look anything like Von Miller to me when he's rushing the passer. This is probably the one I'm going to end up missing the most on this season, because I thought Taylor was going to have a Pro Bowl or borderline Pro Bowl year. And so far this year, he looks like a guy who needs to be benched. And I'm not saying we should bench him. But it's also worth pointing out that he and Eskridge are about the same age, 25 and a half. Taylor will turn 26 this upcoming offseason. This is not some 21-year-old kid or 22-year-old kid who isn't ready for the NFL and just has a ton of talent that he needs to mold. So the fact that we're not seeing improvement this year, we've seen regression, it's very concerning to me. And the last guy I want to talk about for a little bit here is Jordyn Brooks. And I don't know if this guy is a complete disappointment through 2 games. I don't want to put the onus of the run defense completely on Brooks. The run defense has been pretty bad through 2 games. I don't believe that Brooks carries a huge amount of responsibility for that. But here's the thing with Brooks. I've now seen multiple plays in both games where Brooks is getting abused in coverage. I'm not getting any indication that this defense has redone things in a way that is making it easier for Jordyn Brooks to stay out of those messy coverage situations. Second play of the year, Brooks looks completely lost in coverage, and the Denver tight end, maybe it was the third play from scrimmage, I can't even remember, second or third, either way, just looks completely lost in coverage, gives up a long reception to the Denver tight end. And then you have the Ross Dwelley touchdown against the Niners, where I'm pretty sure it was Brooks who blew the coverage. Somebody did, and honestly, I think it was Brooks. So he's still getting put in those terrible situations where you're not playing to his strength, and he's not any better at it. So the new 3-4 defense may not be... Maybe it's just not suited. Maybe it's just not having the effect that we expected. Maybe he as a player is not suited to it. But I'm not seeing a better player. I'm seeing a maybe slightly worse player, because while I know he's playing the run okay, and I know the run defense problems are not his fault, I don't think he's doing amazing. And honestly, he's not adding anything else to his game to make him a more well-rounded player. I haven't seen him cause havoc in the backfield with a pass rush. I haven't seen him improve in coverage, to be sure. So you're left with a guy who is just good against the run. That's okay, but it's not an improvement. And if we're going to be honest here, it's not like Brooks is a super young player either. This is his third year. He's got a lot of NFL experience now. These things should be getting better if they're going to get better. And I always kind of knew the coverage wasn't going to get better, but can you add something as a blitzer? Can you add some value somewhere else on this team beyond just being a run defender, where, that's the thing I always criticized Bobby on in the last couple years of his career, where he was just good against the run, which is great until you put the other team in constant passing downs and they just decide we're not going to bother running. And all the good intentions in the world don't really help you that much when you're not actually defending the run well as a team, and we're not. This guy's going to turn 25 next month. In less than well, actually pretty much exactly a month, he's going to turn 25. So those three guys, I just had to spend a little bit of time talking about this because for a lot of guys on this team who don't look good, it's cool. Like when Geno Smith doesn't look so good, and I'm not saying he's looked bad, but when Geno doesn't look good, I don't really care. Geno's probably not going to be here next year. When Phil Haynes looks bad, like he has so far, I mean that's disappointing. But I wasn't betting my future on Phil Haynes anyway. He's not a significant part of what we're doing, so I'm not going to trip up on that. When somebody like a Tariq Woolen looks bad, of course. I wasn't expecting him to be on the field right now anyway. The fact that he's out there playing half-decent football anyway is actually kind of a miracle. So these three guys are different. These three guys, it's time to show me what you are, because in the example of Jordyn Brooks in particular, there is a big decision we're going to be making at the end of the year, whether or not to activate his fifth-year option. And we're going to have to make that decision before the start of year 4, meaning what we see this year is going to inform that decision. So if Jordyn Brooks continues to play like this, then I don't believe we're going to use that fifth-year option on him. And there certainly will be no lucrative contract extension to keep Brooks in town for the next 4 or 5 years. Of course, at that point, we wouldn't terribly mind that. But the fifth-year option is a powerful weapon that teams can use, but you can only use it if you hit on your first-round picks. And Brooks looked like a hit last year. He was playing pretty well. I know he wasn't a perfect player. I know he left a lot to be desired, but at least he showed you he could be really good in a few areas. And so far this year, he looks about the same, maybe a little worse. So, I don't know. That fifth-year option, I don't know what we do with it right now, but I'm not seeing a player that I'm interested in keeping around in Seattle as of right now. We got 15 games to change that, of course, and I'm going to give him those 15 games. There's nobody on this team you can consider benching him for. There's no point in benching him at all. Let him play every snap this year until he becomes completely unplayable, which is not going to happen because he does do some things well. But I'm not seeing the game-changing player. I'm not seeing the Roquan Smith level, Fred Warner level type of ability. So let me know what you think about these three guys. Are you worried about them? How worried are you about these guys? Are you hitting the panic button, or are you cool? Are you chill? Do you think that there might be some other thing going on here that we can't really put on these guys? All right, see you guys later. Go Hawks.